This video is brought to you by my website, airparts.com, high quality, genuine parts. In this video, I'm going to be resealing the timing cover on a 2008 Chevy Impala with the 3.5 liter V6, that's the 3500 engine. Now wait, before you start scrolling through the video, I made it easy for you. Up here on the top of the screen where that arrow's pointing, you can see exactly what's going on in the clip. And I also included links in the description so you can just skip to where you want to go. Now before we get into the DIY guide, I have to go over a few important tools that you're going to need and tools that you may not need but you'll definitely want. One of those tools that you don't need but you'll want is an impact wrench. It just makes removing the 18mm bolt for the harmonic balancer so much easier. You don't need to hold the pulley to remove it with an impact wrench. Plus there's plenty of low-cost impact wrenches that I would consider, especially if you don't use them every day. Also, while you're doing this, there are a number of components that have to come off before you can remove the timing cover, and I would consider replacing those components. One part I actually do recommend checking out is Fel-Pro Seal Kit TCS 46089. It comes with all of the seals that you'll need to do this job, and I linked it in the description. And the last thing that I need to mention before I start the DIY guide, I'm going to bring this up more than once in the video so people understand, is the coolant crossover pipe has been removed. You don't have to remove the coolant crossover pipe. I was doing a lot more work to this car and the pipe was removed and I left it off so we can get better footage. But it doesn't need to be removed, so just keep that in mind. I'm going to mention it more than once because I know people are going to ask in the comment section why the coolant crossover pipe was removed. Now it's time to just get right into this. Got to remove the engine cover, obviously. I ended up putting the oil cap and filler back in to prevent dust and debris from going in there. And we got to remove all the stuff from the corner. So the brace, the battery's got to come out, the coolant expansion tank. You can scoot over the electronic box just a little bit. Can't remove it, but we can scoot it out of the way so we have more working room. Now once we have that hose off, we're going to remove the coolant reservoir. It's only got two 10mm nuts holding it on. Comes off real easy. We're going to lift it up and watch out for the coolant spilling. Now the serpentine belt has to come off. The power steering line is in the way. It's held on with this 8mm bolt to this bracket. Just going to remove that 8mm bolt so we can move that power steering line out of the way and get the serpentine belt out. Now I'm going to show you where the tensioner is located. It's down here. I'm going to stick that camera up close so you can get a much better view of where it is and where to put your ratchet. We need a 3/8 ratchet or a tensioner ratchet. You can use one of those as well, a special tensioner tool, but you can use a regular ratchet and put it right where you see that yellow highlight. And we're going to turn it clockwise.
When you blow on the tensioner, see that belt coming loose? You can actually just pull the belt right off.
Now that the serpentine belt is off, we can get on to the next step. Take a look at this belt. This was replaced in 2014. This was a Gates brand belt. Not bad, but it's time to replace it.
Let's start with the wheel.
Alright, now let's get this plastic guard out of the way so we can access our crank pulley. It's got an 18mm bolt. Now I removed the 18mm crankshaft / harmonic balancer pulley bolt with my impact wrench. Without an impact wrench, you'll need to hold the pulley with pulley holder. I use the universal pulley holder, but I never use it on this harmonic balancer. I use it on a new harmonic balancer that had an updated design, so I can't confirm if it fits the original design. It does, however, come with adapters, so make sure to check that before you purchase the tool.
It's not perfect yet.
This is a tool that you will absolutely need to do this job. This is a 3-jaw harmonic balancer puller tool. This was purchased online. It was a cheap tool that worked well. You can also rent these from your local parts store. You simply put a deposit and you get that money back when you bring that tool back.
Goes in there.
This is another part where your impact wrench will make it easier. Otherwise, you'll have to hold the pulley as you turn it, because as you notice, as I'm turning it with a wrench, it'll start spinning and you gotta hold it down. Now I'm going to remove the water pump. You probably don't have to remove it because this water pump will come off with the whole timing cover assembly, but it's going to leave you some more room. And if you're going to replace it, you might as well just get it off anyways. It's got 5 bolts. They're all 15 millimeter. And make sure you cover the air conditioning compressor if you didn't drain the coolant already, because coolant is going to spill all over it. I ended up replacing the AC compressor. I knew I was going to replace it. That's going to be another video, by the way, but just a heads up on that.
Exactly the same.
Now I'm going to remove the tensioner. It's got a 15 millimeter bolt. If you're using the ratchet and socket setup like I have here, just keep in mind that as the bolt backs out, you can get your tool stuck against the body of the car. So just a heads up on that.
Can't go too far back, got stuck.
Alright, we got to talk about these two hoses here. These are heater hoses that run from the timing cover area where the water pump is to the heater pipe that runs across the front valve cover to the heater core. There are 2 rubber hoses on each side, and on this particular car they were extremely hard to get off. They were completely fused to the line, and I was able to remove 3 out of 4 without damaging them. The 4th one I had to tear up because I could not get it off. I also ended up removing the pipe to get some more room to grab the hose and try to break it free. So you'll notice that I removed that pipe. I'm going to include as much information for these hoses and part numbers that I can. These hoses are a little difficult to find, including in my online store. I don't have both of them, so I'm going to include whatever information that you need to get the parts that you need if you had to cut them up. Now I mentioned this in the beginning of the video, and I'm going to bring it up again. I removed the coolant crossover pipe, and you'll notice that it's not here. There's a lot more footage and much better angles for me to get to show you guys where all these bolts are. It just helps to see more. So just take this footage here and view whatever you need to view. You don't have to remove the coolant crossover pipe to remove the timing cover, but it's off here. I mentioned it in the beginning, and I'll mention it again just so people aren't confused on what needs to be done here. It's just out of the way. There's more videos, by the way, coming on this car, but take this footage and just view what you need to. I'm also going to include a picture of the entire timing cover so you have an idea of where these bolts are located, because honestly it's just hard to see these bolts from up top in the angle here. I'm going to show you underneath the car as well so you have some more angles there to help you out, and then we're going to take this timing cover off. And here's the bottom area. I'm going to show you some angles and zoom up and give you some light so you can see these bolts. These are all 10 millimeter bolts, by the way.
Another bolt. I'll find it soon. We'll get to it. But yeah. See the.
Now you'll notice that there's some 10 millimeter bolts that are slightly different. They have a different head than the regular 10 millimeter bolts. When you remove those, coolant will come out. They go into a water jacket, so don't be too surprised. Just make sure to put them back where they came from. Now here's that picture of the timing cover that I promised to show you. All of those bolts holding the timing cover to the block are on the front. There's none hidden off to the side or anything like that. They're all on the front.
Bolt had this on it. It looks like a broken bracket.
Now I can start removing the 10 millimeter bolts all around the timing cover and get that timing cover out. I had to pry it a little bit. As you can see, I'm trying to wiggle it out, but prying helped to get it out. Didn't really have to pry it too hard, but just a heads up, if you're really prying the heck out of it, make sure to get a rag to place against the surface one. This one came out pretty easily.
still got the lower radiator hose connected.
And now the timing cover is out. Let's take a look at around the timing cover. Here's the back of it. You can see some of those guiding pins. There's a couple of them on the lower end of it, and you can see the gasket. Now is a really good time to clean the timing cover because this one was very dirty and it took quite a bit. I actually ended up power washing it and cleaning and drying it very well before I replaced the seals and got it back on the car. Also, here's the surface on the block. This is a great time to take your time and clean that surface very well. The last thing you want to do is put it back together and have a leak. Got RTV in the corners where that timing cover meets the oil pan. I ended up changing the oil pan gasket. There's another video on this car as well. So I did not apply RTV when I did this timing cover. I did it when I replaced the oil pan gasket, which I did right after this. And there's another video on this channel for that. That's going to be coming up very soon. And here's the cam sensor. It's got a seal behind it. Our Felpro kit comes with a seal for this, so we're going to replace this seal as well while the timing cover is out.
Gasket in there that's quite squished, so that'll get changed too. I guess it's kind of unfair, but I got the
same thing goes for the crank seal. You're going to want to replace that crank seal. I use the typical seal puller to get the crank seal off. Got to pry up on it a little bit, but it'll come right off.
Clean around this. Cam sensor seal is right here. It's on here.
Now there are seal installers that you can use to get that new crank seal back in. It's going to need to be tapped in. I ended up using a block of wood, which I didn't end up recording, but I was able to tap the crank seal in without any issue. Now here is the seal for the timing cover. I'm going to go ahead and put that seal on. The timing cover has guiding pins in it. You can see those guiding pins right there. If they're not there or one is missing, check your block. One might be stuck in the block. So pull that back out of the block and put it in your timing cover. It's going to make putting that gasket on a million times easier. Now here is the new Harmonic Balancer. Notice that it looks different than the previous one because it's a different design. I don't know why GM updated the design. It's about 1.5 pounds heavier, actually 1.8 pounds heavier than the previous design. I know people don't like heavier pulleys, but that's the new design, so you can kind of pick and choose what you want. On the bottom is the older design and up top is the newer design. Both are still for sale. You can get both of them. I ended up going with the heavier crank pulley, and honestly I didn't notice any difference in performance of the engine. That's just me though. Now when you put this crank pulley on / harmonic balancer, some people have used the bolt and they were able to just zip it in with their impact wrench and it worked just fine. Here's the issue with that. If you damage the crank shaft threads, that's kind of it. Maybe you can try to repair the threads if they get damaged, but it's just not worth the hassle. Just get yourself a Harmonic Balancer pulley installer. It's got a longer bolt so you can actually thread the bolt all the way in and really press that crank harmonic balancer in properly without potentially damaging the threads. It's just for much more peace of mind. Here we're using M12 by 1.5 on this particular kit. It says it's for Ford, but that's the thread pitch on the 2008 Chevy Impala. The GM 3.5 motor has these threads. So the other GMs will probably have the same threads, but make sure you double check that. Now this is how it's going to go in. We're going to screw that into the tool. It's got a little bearing on it. That bearing allows independent movement between the nut and the harmonic balancer, so you can actually spin and press that harmonic balancer in without any binding.
There we go. I got plenty of threads now.
Now I'm going to use my universal pulley holder, which is an OTC 4754, to hold the crank pulley while I torque it down to 92 foot-pounds plus 130 degree. Now also that bolt is, to my understanding, a torque to yield, which means it should be replaced. I didn't replace it. I'm going to recommend that you do, because I'm just not going to recommend somebody do something that's outside of the manufacturer recommendation. But this crank pulley drives the serpentine belt, so not as devastating as if it were driving a timing belt or a timing chain. It's been fine for me since I've done it. It's been over a year, but it's just one of those need to know things. Now it's time to add coolant and bleed the system. Set your heater to hot to allow coolant to flow through your heater core, and start adding coolant. You can see some of those bubbles come up. You can do this until you don't see any more. You can squeeze the radiator hoses to help force some of the air up, but do this, add coolant until you're all good to go, and you are all done.
But we got more. There we go. We'll keep on for a little bit. Start it up. Build some oil pressure. Some more. So we're gonna fire her up now.
Alright, this is done. Make sure to check your work when you're doing a big job like this. Check for any fresh oil leaks, especially if you've cleaned it. You'll be able to spot them much easier. And the last thing is, don't forget to take it for a test drive. If this video helped you out, make sure to subscribe to the channel, because there's going to be a lot more videos coming for this particular car. And don't forget to check out aeroparts.com for high quality, genuine parts.